My plan for this opening shot was for there to be 2 packages. However, Mother Nature had different plans, and so I had to unbox, rather hurriedly it turned out, one of the boxes to save its precious cargo from complete saturation during a torrential downpour when it arrived yesterday. Now, I haven't opened it because the purpose of this video is to do a direct comparison between a DriveThruRPG print-on-demand product and the same product produced by Lulu. So this is a direct comparison of Lightning Source versus Lulu, or in comparison to Lulu, in 2020. Now, I had also wanted to do this as a comparison of other factors than simply printing. I ordered the 2 copies on the same day within minutes of each other and had hoped that we would be able to do delivery comparisons and things like that. We have seen an awful lot of packaging and unpackaging on this channel from DriveThru. So we're not really missing out by not being able to do that unboxing in terms of a direct comparison of packaging. However, it would be unfair to do a comparison of the shipping rates because they came from different sources, and the country in which I live has different policies for those different countries about the rate of processing mail due to the current situation of the global spread of the coronavirus. So, I don't really know when the Lightning Source version arrived in Korea. I know it was sent a day earlier than the Lulu version, but that it has been sitting somewhere not being processed for weeks on end. So that will not be a part of this comparison. We will only compare the books. Now, the one on top is the Lightning Source version. It's the one that arrived yesterday. The one that is still boxed is from Lulu, and it arrived a month ago. Okay, so I have put the open one aside, still haven't looked inside it, and this is the package from Lulu. And it came remarkably unblemished, I have to say. It doesn't even have the typical dirt on it from friction, from elastic bindings that the delivery agents use and the like. So it's almost like it didn't spend any time in the mail at all, which is very surprising, especially these days. I do find this to be a superior experience for opening because it's designed with specific pull tabs. However, I also find that this particular package is much thinner cardboard than what DriveThruRPG typically uses. So, the convenience of this pull tab is completely neutered by the thinness of the packing material. So, anyway, let's enjoy the convenience. And so we don't have to watch me ripping apart lots and lots of pieces of cardboard. All right, and so the experience is basically the same. We have 2 hardcover books. There's a packing slip folded on top. One difference is that the DriveThruRPG packing slip is placed around the book and is not folded evenly, whereas the Lulu version is folded evenly and sitting on top, but, whatever. Okay, so we have Lulu and we have DriveThru. Now, my first impression, I'll show them to you in a minute. My first impression is that the colors are slightly more vibrant on this one. This doesn't, in my experience, mean that we can expect to get more vibrant colors on covers from Lulu than DriveThru. all the time. It does mean that on this run, this one has brighter colors, if you're following what I'm saying. There are variances that happen with print on demand, such as where the paper used in your particular book came from on the roll to determine how wavy or not wavy the pages are, and so on and so forth. You might have a friend who ordered the same book as you did, print on demand. Their blacks are crisp and clean, and yours are faded like an overly reproduced photocopy. Same exact file was used, same printer was used, same materials were used, except you got in at the end of a particular reservoir of ink, and they did not. So it's interesting to be able to look at it with the naked eye and say, you know what, the colors here in some places, not all the colors, and we'll talk about that in a minute, not all the colors, but some of the colors are more vibrant on this one. All right, now I'm going to move the camera so that you can see what I'm talking about and not just have to listen to me talk about what things look like. I'll be the first to admit that the glare from the overhead lighting is annoying. It's certainly annoying to me, but we can use it to our advantage to compare the level of gloss on the covers, if we move that around. And I think that's kind of interesting to note. All right, so what colors were I talking about being more vibrant? Well, let's see if we can actually make that apparent. So here we're looking at the K in Retropunk. And then let's walk over here and look at the K in Retropunk. There is something to my eye and visible to me still in the camera. And again, this will be at least partly subjective, which is more muted in this than in the Lulu version. But we're not going to dwell on this over long, because the monitor on which you're watching the video and a whole host of other factors are going to play into this. But we'll simply serve as a report that when I look at these two colors, some of the colors, such as the pink highlights in Retropunk and the greens in this street sign, do not appear the same for whatever particular reason. Now let's move on to the next detail. The next detail is, and I've put them on this cardboard box to reduce the effect of the glare of the overhead lights. That's why it's there. But take a look at the edge of the cover, and you'll see the orange, reddish orange color is visible all the way around. And then if we go up to the top of the book, there we are at the top of the book, you'll see it's quite visible from the top down. Let's see if we can get that into better focus. There we go. Right? As if the cover image isn't as large as the cover in terms of height. Now, we don't have this problem when we go down to the end of the book. We can only see this color when we drop down and look at it from the bottom directly. But you can see how the cover image doesn't quite fill the available space. And it's a very small amount of space, but it's visible. When we go over to the Lulu version, this isn't happening. Right? The image completely fills the available space. And we come down here to the end, we see that not only does it fill the available space, it wraps around completely, as one might expect. Okay, let's turn the books over. This is the back of the Lulu book, and this is the back of the DriveThruRPG book. And again, to the naked eye, and less so to the camera eye, there is a slight color differential with a richer, or let's say perhaps more vibrant color being evident here in the Lulu version. But we've already talked about why colors may vary. Also notice that the placement of the barcode, the product barcode, is different. Different size, shape, and location. Whether that matters to anybody, I don't know. This is quite curious. The barcode is larger on the Lulu version, but if you'll look, there is more available blank space on its rear cover than there is on the Lightning Source version, or at least it's used differently. And I don't know if these two files ended up being different, or if someone stepped in at some point in either process to do something a little differently, but the back cover text is definitely in a different place between the two. All right, let's look inside the covers. And I'm going to put this on pause while I arrange that. All right, so just as a reminder, neither of these are offset press. They're both print on demand, so the spines, the bindings, are quite tight, and you can hear the glue cracking and all of that. These are not meant to be expected to lie flat or forced to lie flat, as you'll be shortening the lifespan of the book. They can be read in a comfortable position, but they're not going to flip open to any page for reference. So this is looking inside the Lulu one. We can see that this red cover color material is on the inside of the book and on the inside of the book only. Likewise at the bottom, and this is true all the way around, and I believe that this would be an intended effect. Right? So that the front cover is blue, and then you open it up and the interior cover is this reddish orange. Okay. Whereas we already saw this kind of not exactly mismatch, as it's not that it's been slid down or something, it's just simply not large enough on the Lightning Source version. And we can see how it's not large enough even going around on this edge of the cover either. But inside it's the same on both books. All right. So what are we getting from both books? Well, in the Lightning Source, let's see if we get a little height there. In the Lightning Source version, we have quite thick pages, full color, non-gloss. They are matte, I guess we could say. Right. The colors are similar to my experience on my computer screen of the PDF, but may vary from your experience, from your computer screen, from your PDF, if you know what I mean. But there's no glare at all. These are absolutely non-gloss pages. These are just standard Lightning Source color pages. Good color fidelity. The pages aren't stiff. They behave very naturally. This is an excellent evolution of the color process of Lightning Source from its inception, where the color books were definitely awkward to handle. The pages were very stiff and did not have the most pleasant feel. This feels like the pages of a book, and it's full bleed and reasonable, more than reasonable fidelity in the color. But when you open the Lulu version, you find something different. Here, the pages are heavier still, and they are, as you can see, a light gloss. All right. Not quite a magazine page. They're too thick for that experience. More like a textbook page. If you can cast your mind back far enough for your experience with textbooks. And again, let's use this image on page 73 as our direct comparison, but you're going to have to use your memory because I can't hold both books open at the same time. So take a look at the colors and how they are represented on the page. We're really just talking about intensity at this point. All right. Okay, so page 73, the downside of gear, the page is called. So we're looking at that image, and it's different colors. It's grays, blues, yellows, and greens with a slight touch of red. Okay. And then we find page 73 over here. Something I'm noticing is, of course, lighter pages means lighter weight overall. The Lightning Source book is physically lighter, although not by much. So here's the same piece of art. Now we're going to notice one effect right away, the difference between a gloss and non-gloss page. But there are other differences, such as this neck piece, the white that will present the illusion of a three-dimensional curvature and reflection of a metallic surface. Right. Let's see if we can. All right, and let's go back to look at that same feature in the Lulu version. So at this point we are comparing, apples to running shoes. Because the pages, the material that we are comparing is simply not the same. So we're not looking at the degree of fidelity we can get from a different printing process on exactly the same material. We're looking at what could be the same printing process on different material. All right. So again, this is largely subjective. And one of the things that can inform your choice is whether or not you like having glare on your pages. If that really, really bothers you, or if you have to read in a very well-lit or, fluorescent, full environment, then you may prefer, absolutely, the pages in here. And there are certainly situations where I do. I don't know, such as trying to film with overhead lighting. But there you go. The next comparison I would like to make is in size. As expected, the Lightning Source version is physically larger, and this, I suppose, begins to explain this feature difference, but it's also thicker. So the heavier book, Lulu, heavier pages, Lulu. In my copies, and I suspect in other copies from an interior point of view, more vibrancy and fidelity in color in the Lulu version. The binding is comparable, no noticeable difference. They're both hard to open. Neither one wants to stay open, so they're a book that needs to be read with both hands, that cannot comfortably be used as a reference at the table. So, there you go. Your experience with some of the details that I've picked out, some of the details that from your perspective I've left out. Some of those are subjective, some of those are the differences in our personal experience. But this is part of conversation about print-on-demand books. And I have chosen this particular role-playing game, published by Samjoko Publishing, written by Fraser Simons, as the subject of my experiment to see how things have changed between the two major sources for print-on-demand material in this year 2020. It's been a few years since we've done a comparison like this, and its entire purpose is as a comparison. So if you have the opportunity to buy at one or the other for a print-on-demand product that you would like to get in that format, what can you reasonably expect? Okay, I hope this has been helpful and interesting. And if it was neither, my apologies.